What up, peeps? Look at this. Empty, empty. Going on 3 weeks now. I pray the fast is going well for you. It is for me so far. I know we're not Catholic and we don't give up things for Lent, but I decided for some reason within the first week to just, I don't need this. At least I thought I didn't. And there was a special reason, and besides my health. And I decided I'm going to do this for the entire 40 days and maybe forever. We'll see. Anyway, I still like to hold on to it. I like the smell, but I'm not smoking it. So I hope this doesn't offend anybody or aggravate you. Anyway, let's get right to it, shall we? Russian hacking narrative and Russia in general. It's cleared by now that the whole Russian hacking, Russian collusion, Russia whatever thing, it was bogus from the start. There are three broad reasons which I will get into now. I've written some of them up above, and then I want to segue into the whole concept of Russia as a civilizational realm and as a antipode, so to speak, towards Western globalism, materialism, the whole New World Order thing. So, hope to keep this as short as possible. Anyway, how do we know that the Russian hacking narrative, the Russian collusion thing is over and done with? In reality, it is. Okay. The three reasons. First of all, most people didn't believe it from the start. Most people have what I call an interior bullshit monitor, a bullshit detector. And once you get to a certain age, you kind of know when somebody's BSing you. The Russian hacking narrative never really passed that test. Not really. I will say this, though, that those states that had electronic voting and early voting are susceptible to possible hacking in the future. Both external hacking as well as internal hacking. Okay. I'm really going to go into the internals of November 8th, 2016 at another time. But I'm not going to do it right now. I'm just going to say that if you live in a state, I think like Wisconsin, in which there is early voting and electronic voting, I would really try to do my best to get the legislature to change that. There's nothing wrong with a paper ballot. Sure, it's kind of archaic, but you know, you can say, hey, count them, and I want to watch you count them right now. Okay, can't do that electronically. I think electronic ballots can be rejiggered. Okay, so it didn't pass the internal BS monitor that most people have. Our elite live in a bubble. They look at Hillary Clinton as the most manifestly qualified woman to ever walk the face of the earth. Most people who have jobs and go about their business look at her, especially if you work in the private sector or you're in the military or in law enforcement, but especially if you're in the private sector, look at her as a grasping Lady Macbeth criminal who has literally blood on her hands. Okay, and she will be remembered as the destroyer of Europe, the destabilizer of Libya. Okay, and there's going to be a link below to discuss that as well. So our elites live in a bubble. They have to come up with this excuse as to why Hillary Rotten Clinton lost to a pussy-grabbing billionaire oaf who's a reality TV star. They just can't wrap their heads around it. Whereas I can give you some really good reasons. First of all, the economy was bad. There was nothing to write home to mother about. Two, a party in power rarely holds onto the presidency for 3 terms in a row. It's only happened once in living memory. Well, twice if you're 80 years old. 3, she's just an unlikable person. Okay, she really is. Any man who looked at her, looked at, especially that press conference she gave in which she goes, "Why aren't I at 50 points ahead?" was looking at the face of either his ex-wife in the last in the last stages of an ugly divorce, or his ex-mother-in-law. You know, that just turned, that not only lowered the testosterone level of American men, it just put up something, a barrier that most men just can't abide. I'm sorry, that's sexist. But on the other hand, when she was running for senator against Dick Lazio, I think his name was Dick Lazio, Richard Lazio, and he thought he was going to pull a stunt on her, and he walked over to her podium and handed her some papers. You know, that stunt backfired on him, because here was a young man invading this older lady's space, and that lost him the election right there. It really did. So these external things that shouldn't make sense on paper, that don't make sense on paper, do in real life. Okay, that's why when you go on an elevator, you just don't go right up to a person and stand in his face. Okay, you don't do that. Okay, especially if there's room. You go to one room, you go to one corner, the other person goes to the other corner. Okay, there is such a thing as personal space, and there is such a thing as the screaming, termagant, harpy ex-wife, and that's what Hillary played. Okay, so the cards really were against her, but our elite just couldn't see it. They just couldn't. 2, the Mueller investigation. Well, obviously now the Mueller investigation is just a make-work job for a bunch of Hillary bots. They've obviously dropped the ball. They obviously can't find anything on the Trumpster, okay, that ties them into Russia in any way other than the Miss Universe pageant. They came up with these 13 indictments against Russian bots, trolls, which are ridiculous because they're not really against the law what they did. Now, I personally don't believe that any foreign national should be involved in any American election. Conversely, I don't believe any American national should be involved in any foreign election. Okay, but unfortunately, we don't live in that world. That's my opinion. That and 50 cents will buy you a cup of coffee. Okay. However, what they did was not against the law. And anyway, the vast majority of the Facebook ads that they bought, and the vast majority, and all of the rallies that they staged came back after the election was already won by Trump. So below you will see also the interview or the press conference by Rod Rosenstein, in which if you go to 4 minutes and 45 seconds, he basically gives up the game. He goes, it didn't impact the election 1 vote, and there was no collusion with any American people at all. So why is the Mueller investigation ongoing? Possibly because to just give some brief hope to the left that something is going to happen. Let's be honest, if Mueller came out tomorrow and totally exonerated Trump and every member of his family and every member of his organization and every member of his administration and every person involved in his political campaign, they wouldn't accept it. They'd go ballistic. In fact, they would they'd take to the streets and start shooting up people. You remember the press conference in which the physician, the White House physician, gave, in which he said Trump is in good health. He's 6'3", he's just overweight, he's not obese. He needs to lose 20 pounds. But other than that, he's in excellent health. They couldn't accept that. They thought that this doctor who worked for Obama was lying to them. Okay? And lying to the American people. And he's part of this grand conspiracy to exonerate Trump's health. Okay? What makes you think they're going to accept any exoneration from Mueller? They won't. They can't. In fact, they will just go ballistic. So, Mueller, I think, is just keeping this going for no good reason, but just to kind of keep things on the down low, to tamp down the rage of the left. That's a possibility. Okay, 3. How do we know that the Russian collusion thing is just a nothing burger? Well, Rich Lowry, who is a coadjutor in the Church of Conservatism and a former Never Trumper, and I think he still is a Never Trumper, and he's really taken the National Review down to its, cultural Marxist levels, which I think would have Bill Buckley spinning in his grave, and who looks like a cuck. I mean, truly a soy boy by every estimation. Anyway, he came out and put a very, I got to hand it to him, wrote a very excellent essay about the Russian collusion and the whole idea that people who are blaming the Russians because we're at each other's throats are delusional. We're already at each other's throats. We were at each other's throats years ago. Okay, we're still at each other's throats. It's got nothing to do with Russian collusion or Boris and Natasha with their notorious mind rays. And I've got to give Rich Lowry some credit for that. I really do. I think he's right. The idea that Putin has managed to set us at each other's throats is nonsensical. I'll say that again. We already were. Now, is he deriving some pleasure from this? Possibly. I don't know. I mean, it's certainly making it harder for America to engage in adventurism, isn't it? We'll see how that plays out. I don't know. That's my take on it anyway. I was going to say something about Russia as a civilizational realm, but I see we're already up against 12 minutes, and I'm going to stop it here. And another day. Pax vobiscum. Let's try to love one another, and adios.